My name is Luis Tanieto and I'm a marine biologist and I work for the Nautilus Project. So microbeads are products that are added to cosmetics or added to toothpaste in order to increase their abrasive value. It's used because it's cheaper than sourcing natural products like wood or rocky, sandy substances, which can help increase the abrasive value of the product. So in a toothpaste, in order to get the whiteness out of the tooth, the enamel, you increase the how abrasive the product is. The microbeads are very cheap, very easily added, very quick to produce, and they end up increasing the whiteness of the tooth after you clean your tooth with it. So typically with a toothpaste or a face scrub, when you finish washing your teeth, you spit the contents of that paste down the sink. So it ends up in the sewage system, and ultimately that makes its way into the ocean, where animals. So this stuff is in the ocean. There are two problems that appear straight away. The first one is that the plastic absorbs a lot of the chemical toxins that are in the water already, other pollutants. And the second one is that the animals are consuming these microfibers and these microbeads, and it's ending up in their stomach. Once in their stomach, the pollutants end up being absorbed by the surrounding tissues. Okay, so the toxins are in the flesh of the animal, and as those animals get consumed, those toxins are making their way through the food web. With microfibers, microfibers come from nylon or polyester clothing. Any clothes that are made with essentially plastic fibers. When you wash those clothes in the washing machine, the fiber starts to break down and ends up going down into the sewage system. And these are at microscopic level. You're talking about microns in length. These fibers make their way into into the sea, and in the same way as microbeads, they end up getting consumed by plankton and by fish, and ends up making its way into the food web. So we're talking about the consumers generally. The zooplankton will be consuming microfibers and potentially microbeads too, and it'll be juvenile fish so planktonic fish and juvenile fish primarily will be consuming these plastic products. The thing is that from that point you now have an entrance into the rest of the food web, and consequently the chemicals that are in the plastic that has been absorbed leaches out into the flesh of the animal, and it makes its way right the way through the food web.
Hi, my name is Sarah Framo. I'm an environmental officer within the Department of the Environment and Climate Change. The legislation regarding microbeads has come about as a result of a concern that we have locally, and both internally in government as well as from the public in general, about preserving and taking care of our local environment. Gibraltar is unique, and that extends to its waters. The life that we have in our waters, most people don't expect what there is. There's a lot of different marine life, coral reefs. We are in a unique geographical situation as well. Our habits as a consumers as in the general public, we personally feel that we've become a bit lazy, especially when it comes to our attitudes towards plastic. We've seen recently Blue Planet that has the new program out on the consequences of plastic in our natural environment. One of them particularly is that of plastics breaking down into microplastics in the natural environment, and especially in the marine environment. Now, in one area which is quite easy for us to, I suppose to a certain extent, control, and hence the legislation for it, is that of microbeads. Whilst microbeads are minute particles made of plastic, we have to remember that microbeads are purposely manufactured for the cosmetic industry. It has a very good job, I suppose, to a certain extent for exfoliation purposes. But at the same time, it is a product, because of its rinse-off nature, which ends up in the marine environment. And the consequences of these microbeads there are quite devastating, even though we don't realize it. The legislation has come about because we've decided to start making a change. Gibraltar being a unique, tight-knit community, we're best to set an example to the rest of the world. There are other countries who are thinking about and discussing whether they should implement a ban on microbeads or not. Gibraltar has taken the stance that yes, microbeads are bad for the environment. They are an unnecessary product or ingredient in products that we wish to use, and therefore there is no need for them. So we've gone ahead with the legislation to ban these microbeads from coming into Gibraltar, and obviously as a result of using these, preventing them from entering our marine environment, which needs protecting. Obviously in the Department of the Environment and Climate Change, whilst we try to help people to live a normal and daily life and not restrict them in their choices, we have to consider the natural environment. We have to think about the consequences that our actions have on the natural environment. And obviously microbeads, the legislation on implementing a ban on microbeads is just a first step. Other initiatives we're looking into, for example, is the plastic bag ban. We are trying to get, and we've had a great response from the commercial entities here in Gibraltar, to move away from the use of single-use plastic bags and move to other more sustainable methods of taking your products when you buy something from a local shop away home. We are looking into biodegradable bags which have no impact. We're trying to change the attitude locally of the single-use plastic. Plastic is a brilliant material, but we have to keep in mind that once it's reached the end of its life, it needs to be placed in the yellow recycling bins and not disposed of either in our normal household bins or just discarded to end up in the natural environment like the marine.
As far as I'm aware, this is the one of the Gibraltar is leading the way with this law. A lot of other countries have spoken about banning microbeads, but they haven't actually affected that law yet. So in many respects, this is very pioneering work coming out of Gibraltar, which is fantastic news. However, there are other areas like the single-use plastic bags where we're still lagging behind other parts of Europe, and that also needs to be addressed too.